Hello, and welcome to the Posts About Ghosts podcast. I'm your co-host, Chellemo, and with me, as always, is Aidy. Hi, Aidy.
Hello.
Well, guys, Valentine's Day is coming up this weekend, so in honor of that, we decided to do a special episode this week focused on haunted love stories. We have 6 stories of ghosts and love to share with you guys. Also, if you stick around till the end, I've got a special treat for you. I'm going to read you a horror story. But for now, I think Aidy is going to kick us off.
I am.
Fantastic.
Okay, so to kick us off with, I've got the story of The Bride on the Bridge, which is a story that originates in Stowe, Vermont, and it's actually called Emily's Bridge. There are several versions of this story. One of the versions is that Emily and her boyfriend were to meet on the bridge to elope, as her parents did not approve of their relationship, and he failed to arrive. So, distraught, Emily proceeded to hang herself from one of the rafters on the bridge.
Lovely.
Yeah. And another version of this story is that on her wedding day, Emily was left at the altar. So she left church in search of her love, and she takes a carriage and horses to go and look for her missing spouse-to-be. And upon arriving on the bridge, the horses are suddenly startled, and she's killed in the ensuing accident.
Right.
Yes. And another variation of this story, which is actually quite similar, but this one is that on her way to a wedding, she's crossing the bridge and is knocked down and killed by runaway horses. So in all 3 versions, Emily's Bridge is obviously where Emily meets her demise. Now,
Right.
on to the paranormal part of the story is that visitors to the bridge report scratches appearing on their cars. They also hear strange noises on the bridge, such as a girl screaming and the sound of rope tightening, which would seem to relate to the original story of proceeding to hang herself from the bridge with the sound of the rope tightening. And also, the owners of parked cars on the bridge also hear banging on their cars, as well as the sound of feet dragging on the roof of their cars. So, would imply, if somebody has hung themselves, their feet dragging on the roof of the car.
Interesting. Something else that I found interesting, particularly about bridges, is there are a lot of bridges connected to love stories.
Yes.
I tried to find a few different, and good Lord, every third one was a bridge story. So there's a lot of haunted bridges out there.
Yeah, very much so. Very much so.
Well, the first one that I had this week, it's a pretty famous picture. If you're into the paranormal, you've probably seen the picture of the brown lady at Raynham Hall. A woman coming down the stairs.
I have.
Yeah. This is a story from Norfolk in England, early 1700s. You imagine, candlelight, tall ceilings, big heavy doors, shuttered windows, that kind of setting. The woman's name was Lady Dorothy Walpole, and she was married to Charles Townshend, the second, now help me with this word.
Viscount.
I would have totally killed that. Viscount. Thank you for jumping in there before I even embarrassed myself, because I was going totally somewhere else.
Yeah.
The second Viscount Townshend, and they moved into Raynham Hall. Now, this is a big estate that should have symbolized status, privilege, security, but instead, in the legend, it was basically her prison. Rumors started to go around that Dorothy had been romantically involved with another powerful man, and some even said he was a king. Whether those rumors are true or not, it's never been proven, but jealousy in aristocratic marriages was brutal. The story goes that when her husband discovered what he believed to be betrayal, he confined her within Raynham Hall. Now, some versions say that she was locked in her rooms, others say that she was kept under guard, but all of the stories agree about one thing: she was cut off from society and she was cut off from her kids, cut off from everything. Official records claim that she died in 1726 and she was buried quietly, but local whisperers insisted that she never truly left. She still haunts the place. For generations now, guests of Raynham Hall report seeing a woman in brown satin drifting along the corridors. She's most often seen descending the grand staircase, and that's where the famous picture of her is taken, coming down the staircase.
Yeah.
She has a pale face and her eyes are hollow.
Yeah.
Witnesses describe an expression of just profound sadness. So, the photograph.
Now, yeah, this photograph I remember seeing in a publication called The Unexplained that used to come out, like, I think every month here in the UK when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing that photograph inside that publication.
I saw it, and I couldn't even tell you where I've seen it, but I've seen it in a few places.
Yeah, it's very famous.
Yeah. So in 1936, photographers from Country Life magazine were visiting Raynham Hall to document the estate. And they positioned their camera toward the staircase, and they saw with their own eyes a misty feminine form coming down the stairs toward them, and they took a shot. The resulting image is now one of the most famous ghost photographs in history. It appears to show a translucent woman in in a flowing brown dress, say that 3 times fast, coming down the stairs. The figure seems to be illuminated and her face is blurry and skeletal, but you can tell it's a human. Skeptics have argued that it was double exposure or a trick of light or a staged illusion, but the photographers insisted that the figure was visible before they ever snapped the picture. So it wasn't just captured on picture, they saw this with their own eyes. So this is Dorothy. No one knows why she stays there. They don't know if it's because she was falsely accused, or is it her spirit replaying the humiliation of being locked in there, or what's going on. When listeners picture ghosts, they often imagine anger or revenge or violence. But, what if it's something different? What if it's about isolation or about the ache of a love that just didn't happen? There are no reports that she makes any noise, or, she doesn't scream or rattle chains or anything like that. She just comes down the staircase over and over and over. So I thought that was particularly sad.
Yeah, I was just looking at a picture now, and I mean, it's very obvious it's a person.
Yeah.
It looks like they're wearing, what I guess the outfit she would wear. It looks kind of like she's got a hood up. But yeah, I mean, it's...
If they are telling the truth, it is the best ghost photo. There's 2, that one and one with the ghost sitting on the tombstone.
Yeah.
Those are the 2 best ghost photos I've ever seen in my entire life.
But yeah, this is what I would say is the Holy Grail.
Yeah.
Like, anybody that goes out ghost hunting, this is the Holy Grail, which is a full-on apparition. There's no doubts at all. Well, if you saw this, I mean, bearing in mind when this picture was taken, when did you say, 1936?
Yes.
They not really got holographic technology back then. I don't know how they would put on a light show or anything like that back then.
If they did something that fantastic in 1936, you would think by now we would know how they did it. You couldn't keep a lid on that.
No, and they always tend to play it for so long, and then what they then come out with at the end of it all. Like I say, they play the trick for so long, and then they'll be like, yeah, but actually, this is this is how we did it. This is what happened. It's a very fascinating picture. As regards double exposure, I mean, I suppose that is a possibility, but it's just everything else in the picture, and I'm no expert, but just looking at it, it seems fine. So I don't know. And like you say, if what they're saying is true, they saw this before they took the picture. They took the picture because they saw this. So you're not going to get a double exposure
with your own eyes.
Yeah, the implication is there was more than one person present, because you say they, not, rather than an individual. It's fascinating. And like I say, that would be what I would say any ghost hunter going out there, that is the Holy Grail. That's the thing that you want.
Yeah.
Because it's not some ambiguous noise or anything else that can be explained. It's literally like I always say, that scene in Ghostbusters, at the beginning where you've got the ghost of the librarian.
Yeah.
That's kind of that. That's kind of what I mean. That falls into that category. You can just imagine they're there and you stop and you're looking and it's like, okay, that's what you're looking for. You're not looking for just like an orb. Or something like that. It's like, that's a person that's transparent and is clearly supernatural. And that is definitely a person. And I would say, whatever the story is behind the figure itself, that's it. That's the absolute thing that any ghost hunter wants to see. It's very fascinating. It's a good story. And certainly, again, like I say, I remember seeing it as a kid. It was up there, if not the most famous, one of the most famous photos of something possibly paranormal, I think, that's out there.
Yeah.
So, yes.
You've got a love triangle.
I do. And also, one of our regular viewers / listeners wanted me to be challenged by foreign names again. Well, here you go. Here we go. And I make no apology. I should be able to do this, I think.
Oh, you'll be fine.
But it still counts because these are Spanish names. So, anyway, a deathly love triangle. And the location of this, see, we're going straight into it right away. The Castillo.
Dive right in.
De San Marcos, St. Augustine, Florida. Yeah, get that one.
Did pretty good.
Pretty good, I think.
I'm not going to challenge you.
I think if you closed your eyes and didn't know who I was, you would probably think I was Spanish. Anyway, in 1784. Now I'm not going to do the Spanish title. It's Colonel.
Yeah.
Garcia Marti. I think I've said that right, or is it Marti?
Marty,
okay. Brought his wife Dolores, got that one right, to the Castillo de San Marcos. He wasn't the most attentive husband, and so she found other ways to pass time there. And she ended up having an affair with her husband's assistant.
Of course she did.
Yeah, Captain Manuel Abela. You've done Spanish. You should be reading this. You've done Spanish. I haven't.
Oh, but you had the challenge.
The French was the thing I did for 2 years, although I didn't really pay much attention in class. But yeah, that was the one I did. I didn't do Spanish. Anyway, Dolores, see, I can get that one, was known for wearing a distinctive perfume. The Colonel, there you go, detecting the odour of this perfume on Capitan Abela. See, you've set me off now. Shortly after both Dolores and Capitan Abela disappeared, the colonel said that Dolores had returned to Spain and the captain had been assigned to Cuba. Yes, rather conveniently. Why would his wife return to Spain? Anyway, apparently not. 50 years later, the remains of 2 bodies were found behind a wall in the dungeon of the Castillo. Some claim the bodies were in chains, whilst others say that there was nothing but ashes. However, there have been sightings of a mysterious woman dressed all in white at the Castillo, leading some to believe that this is the ghost of Dolores. So, there you go. Sort of a rather random and brutal end to that love triangle. I just like the fact that, he was like, oh yeah, she's gone back to Spain and I've sent him off to Cuba. And nobody, thought to check whether they've reported in or, like they...
Chances are they thought about it, but decided not to be behind the wall with her.
What I want to know is, if he did this, I mean, you would imagine he did this by himself.
Yeah.
How did they not hear the knocking through of whatever wall it was? Him then dumping the bodies there, then bricking the wall up. I mean, the security in this Castillo must have been really slack, because you would think it would have echoed quite a bit. Somebody's knocking a wall down and dumping a couple of bodies in there, and then, sort of bricking the wall back up. I mean, did the security not go past and go, hey, that mortar looks pretty new behind that? What's going on here?
Yeah.
I mean, we assume it's some military compound, considering, we've got a colonel living there. And
I don't know. Women had it rough back in the day when it came to these kind of things.
Yeah, apparently. Reading the story, I was like, how did he get away with it? Like, how did nobody hear it?
Chances are they did, and they just didn't care.
Well, one of them was a captain. So it's not just the guy's wife. It's actually a captain in the army. I mean, if you kill, somebody in your own army, even if they're a subordinate, I mean, he's a captain, he's an officer. It's not like a private, or whatever. I mean, this is a captain. It's his subordinate. It's his second in command. And you kill him, and then, everybody's just cool with that. I sent him to Cuba. All right, okay. When's he coming back? Well, I don't know. Probably never. Do you want to be my captain now? And it's like, yeah, okay. And then, like I say, with the security there, and obviously they didn't have any prisoners at this fort, it would seem, either. Because if you were there in this dungeon and there's a prisoner watching you do this, and it's like, okay, Colonel, let's talk shop. You let me go, and mind you, he probably would have just been killed. But I don't know. I found it kind of quite brutal, but also like, dear God, like they really are slack. I can't imagine too many military compounds not questioning the sound of a wall being knocked down might infer that you were under some kind of sneak attack. I don't know. Wouldn't you think the patrols, the guards, would rush off to investigate? Yeah. Anyway, yeah.
I don't know. Apparently not.
Yeah.
Well, I've got a ghost bride of Union Cemetery to tell you about.
You do. This is quite a detailed one as well, just looking at this here. I'm going to have to up my game, aren't I, story-wise? I've just been listening, and it's like mine sort of are over in 5 minutes, and it's like, pow, take that. And yours, actually, you've got like really good details in it. I just feel like kicking back here and just listening to you.
Well,
mine's like a couple of sentences long.
Oh, I'm hoping to not let you down here. But the story takes place on a wooded, curvy road in Easton, Connecticut, Route 59. It's known for having fog gathering on the road low over the asphalt at night. And on one of these curves is where drivers are saying this apparition appears. She stands at the roadside in a white gown. Sometimes people say it's a wedding gown. Sometimes it's just a long dress. Her hair is dark, her face is pale, and she looks lost. The legend of Union Cemetery's White Lady has been around since the 1940s.
Yeah.
Though the identity of the spirit shifts depending on who's telling the story. It's an old urban legend that has, like all urban legends, has a few different versions.
Yeah.
In one version, she was a bride killed in a car accident on her wedding day. And in another, she was murdered by her boyfriend who betrayed her. Some claim that she died before ever reaching the altar.
This is like Emily again.
Yeah, and with all the different versions, everybody agrees on one thing. She's waiting.
Yeah.
Drivers have reported stopping to offer her help, believing that she's, a stranded pedestrian, and she climbs into the back seat, but then just moments later she vanishes from the car. She doesn't get out, there's no sound, just empty seat. She's there 1 minute, she's gone.
Yeah.
Well, in 1991, a well-known photograph was taken inside Union Cemetery. It shows a misty white figure sitting atop a gravestone. This is the other one that I was talking about. This is the second best picture I've ever seen. And she's just there sitting on this gravestone, and paranormal investigators have debated the image as they do ever since. What makes the story romantic rather than just scary is she's not described as aggressive. She's not attached to a single headstone. She wanders through the graveyard. Some believe that she's searching for a fiancé who never arrived. Maybe she's going from tombstone to tombstone looking for him. There's something uniquely haunting about brides and bridal imagery with the haunting.
Yeah.
The wedding dress is supposed to represent hope and a promise and a future that you're about to start. But why are so many ghost stories tied to weddings being interrupted? Perhaps because weddings symbolize a threshold moment or a crossing, from one life to another. And in this case, the crossing went into death instead of a new life.
Yeah.
Maybe that's something that causes these hauntings to persist. When drivers report her vanishing from their car, the one question that they have is she still trying to get somewhere, or is she just reliving the final journey that she never finished?
Yeah.
In the end, the Ghost Bride of Union Cemetery it's not so much about terror, it's more about being stuck or suspended in time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen that picture as well. She looks either really chill or really sad. I can't tell. It's a very interesting picture. Have you seen it? Do you know the one I'm talking about?
I just looked at it now, yeah.
That's the Ghost Bride of Union Cemetery.
There's something sort of profoundly sad about it, isn't there?
Yeah.
It is a great picture.
It is. Every time I see it, for some reason, I have this feeling like I just wish I was there chilling with, it's not a scary picture. It's a very comforting and chill picture to look at. It always has been for me.
Well, I've got one that I must confess I did chuckle a little bit when I read this one. It's obviously, this is a true story of something that happened, but there was just parts of it just made me laugh, and I shouldn't really, but it does dial into the fact of if you are really wealthy and powerful, you literally can't get away with murder. It was the circumstances of this. It's not funny on the one hand, but the rationale of one of the characters in this story was just incredible. We have a romantic murder plot in Albany, New York. A wonderful man by the name of Jesse Strang. I think that's how you say his second name.
I'd go with that.
Can't imagine it being any other way. This wonderful chap, anyway. By the way, this takes place in the 1800s. The only date I got was 1827. So I assume it's kind of in and around that period of time. Anyway, this splendid chap leaves his wife and children and took the assumed name of Joseph Orton. And he began working at and bear with me with this one, the Van Rensselaers. That's how I'm going to try and pronounce that.
I would go with that.
Well, anyway, their residence, Cherry Hill. And while he's there, he catches the eye of the wealthy Elsie Van Rensselaer, who was married to a man called John Whipple. Why couldn't they have just changed her name to Elsie Whipple so I didn't have to say that name again? Honestly, it's like it's done on purpose. Anyway.
They knew you were coming.
They knew I was coming. They knew that near 200 years later, Some idiot who can't pronounce names would be trying to pronounce this name. Anyway, Elsie and Jessie decided that their love would flourish even more without her husband being on the scene. So they hatched a plot to murder him.
As you do.
As you do. So I don't know whether this was days, weeks, months, years later. Anyway, in 1827, after failing to poison John Whipple with arsenic, Jessie shot and killed him. What makes you wonder why he bothered with the arsenic task? Why don't you just shoot and kill him in the first place? Anyway, the couple tried to conceal the murder, but they did a rather poor job of it and ended up being arrested and placed on trial for murder. Now, the source I got from this is apparently detailed in a blog called Murder by Gaslight, which details the trial. Now, I'm not going to go word for word.
Right.
I'm sure you can find that. But the brief upshot is as follows. And this is where I thought it was kind of funny. Even though it's not, because it's a murder thing. But I'll get into it anyway. So Jesse Strang confessed to the murder. And he advised the prosecution as to where the location of the murder weapon, a rifle, could be found. Now, this is where it kind of got a bit weird for me. And I thought this guy is a loon. So he believed that by confessing and also getting Elsie to confess, upon their conviction, Elsie's powerful family connections would get them both pardoned.
Oh, that's counting on a whole lot.
That's what made me laugh. Made me laugh because that is some 4D chess going on right there. I mean, that's not even a Hail Mary, that one. So not only is he confessing, he's also getting Elsie to confess, essentially putting her head in the noose as well. And then relying on the fact that, well, she's wealthy and her family is powerful and wealthy too. That will be enough to get everybody off and everything will just be okay. Everything will be cool.
I take it didn't go that way.
No. The lawyer and the prosecution ended up telling Jesse that unfortunately nothing he did would lighten the punishment upon being found guilty.
Imagine that.
Yeah, you can't just drag somebody else into it and then say, oh, it's okay if I get found guilty and, Elsie gets found guilty too because, she's mega rich and powerful and, we'll get let off. I'll say, there's grounds for this, but yeah, it's not a tactic I would have used, personally speaking. Yeah.
No. That was counting on a whole lot.
Yeah, and having found this out, he tries to withdraw his confession, which is not really, I imagine in this period of time in particular, going to work either. They kind of like open and shut cases, not drawn out protracted legal trials. And if you confess, they pretty much got the rope round your neck before the last part of the sentence is out. However, he did try to get his confession withdrawn, but after they picked themselves up off the floor laughing, I think they decided, no, that's not going to happen. To compound things for Jesse, members of the Cherry Hill household detailed how they had heard Jesse trying to spread rumours of there being people out there who were out to kill John Whipple, which was an obvious attempt to frame this murder as a plot by some other conspiracy. He didn't obviously specify what that conspiracy was. It was just about going about saying, oh yeah, I heard that somebody wanted to kill him.
Yeah.
But you confessed to the murder. Well, no, I didn't. Somebody else did. You're starting to see this wasn't a very well thought out attempt.
Yeah, he botched it.
This was a botch. The merchants who sold him the arsenic and the rifle also identified him.
Wow.
Yeah.
Everybody was telling on this guy. What did he do?
Well, he murdered somebody is what he did.
But why is everybody taking it personal?
I would imagine that somebody decided to do a bit of due diligence, as in maybe the police, the local constabulary, as it would have been at the time, possibly asked questions, as in, did anybody know anything about arsenic and a rifle being sold to somebody? And oh yeah, it was him over there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the hotel keepers, where which I believe is Cherry Hill, is the hotel where Elsie lived. They weren't exactly stealthy about going around seeing each other either, because the hotel keepers had frequently seen Elsie and Jessie going around together. So, yeah, this didn't really work out particularly well. You've got witnesses. You've got the people who've supplied you with the arsenic and the rifle coming forward and pointing to the guy and saying, yeah, that's the fella. So he obviously, didn't make too many attempts to go in there in a covert manner. However, despite all of that, all of that just seems to be layering things on top of the nightmare for Jesse. Anyway, his previous confession had already sealed his fate. Because he confessed to the murder.
Sure.
So this was just adding insult to injury at the time. I can just imagine him stood there and people walking past and just pointing and laughing at him at this point. However, Elsie's trial also followed a similar path. This is where it gets a little bizarre as well. They tried to call Strang as a witness, despite the fact that he'd been found guilty already and was just awaiting sentencing. I guess whether this was some attempt by him to sort of implicate her further. But however, the judge wouldn't allow his testimony because he would be an unreliable witness, wouldn't he? Because he's already been found guilty. Oh.
What a mess.
Well, it gets even worse because the final kick in the teeth is Elsie gets acquitted. Seemingly because Albany's establishment does indeed look out for its own. So Jesse Strang gets sentenced to death and he's hung. He's the co-conspirator Elsie because she is from a rich family. Jesse's tactic did half work.
Yeah, they just didn't extend it to him.
No.
Wow.
Because I guess for some reason, the fact that he directly murdered somebody who was part of the family through marriage. For all we know, John Whipple could have been a really nice person that treated everybody really well. Anyway, yeah, he was hung. So, imagine she just stood there going, oh, well, I guess it sucks to be you. And, apparently, having a serious amount of money, power and influence does mean in this instance that you can get away with murder. So, to round off this very strange one that I must say, the whole tactic in the trial was just what made me laugh. It was an act of desperation in the extreme. It was clear that no one was on this guy's side. But then again, this is a guy who left his wife and kid to start a new life. Yeah. And I just wonder if he regretted that at the moment while he was being marched up to the gallows,
He probably had some regrets, yeah.
It probably did, yeah. Confessing right out of the gate to murder when the sentence is death was probably not the best tactic to begin with, because that pretty much renders everything that follows null and void. But anyway, you would think that would be the end of the story, but it's not. It is said that all three players in this story haunt the halls of Cherry Hill. Witnesses say that they have seen a ghost on the bottom floor of the building and believe that to be the ghost of John Whipple. And despite him appearing to be angry, which I can thoroughly understand why he would, it is said that he doesn't appear to present any danger to those who have witnessed him. So he's probably just going around with a bit of a face like thunder.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jesse Strang's ghost, because if he thought that murder and execution was going to be the end of his story, apparently not. That's been reportedly seen in and around the location of the gallows where he was hung. Now, however, in the story didn't detail about Elsie's ghost, where that's been seen, but it did say all three. So whether she just wanders the halls of Cherry Hill in general.
Interesting. If anybody knows, let us know.
Indeed, but it is a tragic story. But it was the trial that made me chuckle. I mean, this was not a Lincoln Lawyer level courtroom drama, was it? Really? This was absolute bedlam. You can just imagine the scenes of somebody literally trying to get off by confessing, getting his accomplice to confess, and then relying entirely on the fact that the power of their family would then come to his aid, because he was essentially, I mean, he wasn't a member of their family. He was just somebody who was having an affair with this woman. I mean, I guess to the powerful members of that family, he was inconsequential. And I suppose there is, to some stretch, there is a tragedy to that, but it didn't set him up as being as a tragic person, but rather than, somebody of low character. That's how the story seemed to set him up. Whether, of course, he was like that in real life or not, doesn't say, but it certainly gave that implication from the way it was reported. But yeah, that's my last one.
Well, my last one is a Native American story.
Right.
It is about the Lover's Leap spirits. This story takes place above the waters near St. Ignace, Michigan. It's a cliff that overlooks the vast blue stretch of the Great Lakes. Legend says 2 young lovers once stood at its edge holding hands. Their tribes had forbidden them to be together, and their families opposed their union. Many versions of the story, they came from rival communities, even. But rather than being separated, they chose to leap from the cliff to their death into the Great Lakes. Now, this story is a part of a broader tradition of Lover's Leap stories all over North America. There's actually one here in North Carolina at Blowing Rock, and it's also a Native American story. But I believe in that version, they leap and then the wind spirit pushes them back to safety. This one particularly takes place in Michigan over the Great Lakes. Now, witnesses have claimed that on certain evenings, particularly around sunset, you can see 2 figures standing there on the edge together, not moving. They just stand there side by side, and sometimes they disappear if you get too close to them. Others claim to feel a sudden rush of sorrow or peace when visiting the site. And unlike the Brown Lady or a lot of the other ghost stories, these 2 are seen together. And there's something really powerful about that. Ghost stories are often a center of abandonment where one lover is left behind or, searching for the other. But if this legend is true, they remain united, even in death. As a ghost story, it endures because it taps into our universal fear of being forced apart. The image of 2 silhouettes against the fading sky, choosing each other over the world, is beautiful and devastating. And you wonder, are they trapped in that decision to have to make it again and again? Or did they bind themselves in love so much that even death couldn't touch that? When visitors stand at Lover's Leap and look out over the water, they often describe a strange stillness, as if even the air itself is holding its breath. Well then, for those of you who are still with us at the end, I promised you a ghost story. This one is called The Spectre Bride by William Harrison Ainsworth, and here it goes. The castle of Hernswolf, at the close of the year 1655, was the resort of fashion and gaiety. The baron of that name was the most powerful nobleman in Germany, and equally celebrated for the patriotic achievements of his sons and the beauty of his only daughter. The estate of Hernswolf, which was situated in the center of the Black Forest, had been given to one of his ancestors by the gratitude of the nation, and descended with other hereditary possessions to the family of the present owner. It was a castellated Gothic mansion, built according to the fashion of the times. It was the grandest style of architecture, and consisted principally of dark winding corridors and vaulted tapestry rooms. Magnificent indeed in their size, but ill suited to private comfort, for the very circumstances of their dreary magnitude. A dark grove of pine and mountain ash encompassed the castle on every side, and threw an aspect of gloom around the scene, which was seldom enlivened by the cheering sunshine of heaven. The castle bells rung out a merry peal at the approach of winter twilight, and the warder was stationed with his retinue on the battlements to announce the arrival of the company who were invited to share the amusements that reigned within the walls. The Lady Clotilda, the Baron's only daughter, had but just attained her 17th year, and a brilliant assembly was invited to celebrate the birthday. The large vaulted apartments were thrown open for the reception of the numerous guests, and the gaieties of the evening had scarcely commenced when the clock from the dungeon tower was heard to strike with unusual solemnity, and on the instant a tall stranger, arrayed in a deep suit of black, made his appearance in the ballroom. He bowed courteously on every side, but was received by all with the strictest reserve. No one knew who he was or whence he came, but it was evident from his appearance that he was a nobleman of the first rank, and though his introduction was accepted with distrust, he was treated by all with respect. He addressed himself particularly to the daughter of the Baron, and was so intelligent in his remarks, so lively in his sallies, and so fascinating in his address, that he quickly interested the feelings of his young and sensitive auditor. In fine, after some hesitation on the part of the host, who, with the rest of the company, was unable to approach the stranger with indifference, he was requested to remain a few days at the castle, an invitation which was cheerfully accepted. The bell of the night drew on, and when all had retired to rest, the dull, heavy bell was heard swinging to and fro in the grey tower. Though there was scarcely a breath to move the forest trees, many of the guests, when they met the next morning at the breakfast table, averred that there had been sounds as of the most heavenly music, while all persisted in affirming that they had heard awful noises, proceeding, as it seemed, from the apartment which the stranger at that time occupied. He soon, however, made his appearance at the breakfast circle. When the circumstances of the preceding night were alluded to, a dark smile of unutterable meaning played round his saturnine features, and then relapsed into an expression of the deepest melancholy. He addressed his conversation principally to Clotilda, and when he talked of the different climes he had visited, of the sunny regions of Italy, where the very air breathes the fragrance of flowers, and the summer breeze sighs over the land of sweets, when he spoke to her of those delicious countries where the smile of the day sinks into the softer beauty of the night, and the loveliness of heaven is never for an instant obscured, he drew tears of regret from the bosom of his fair auditor, and for the first time she regretted that she was yet at home. Days rolled on, and every moment increased the fervor of the inexpressible sentiments with which the stranger had inspired her. He never discoursed of love, but he looked it in his language, in his manner, in the insinuating tones of his voice, and in the slumbering softness of his smile. And when he found that he had succeeded in inspiring her with favorable sentiments, a sneer of the most diabolical meaning spoke for an instant, and died again on his dark-featured countenance. When he met her in the company of her parents, he was at once respectful and submissive, and it was only when alone with her, in her ramble through the dark recesses of the forest, that he assumed the guise of the more impassioned admirer. As he was sitting one evening with the Baron in the wainscoted apartment of the library, the conversation happened to turn upon supernatural agency. The stranger remained reserved and mysterious during the discussion, but when the Baron, in a jocular manner, denied the existence of spirits, and satirically mocked their appearance, his eyes glowed with unearthly luster, and his form seemed to dilate to more than its natural dimensions. When the conversation had ceased, a painful pause of a few seconds, and a chorus of celestial harmony was heard pealing through the dark forest glade. All were entranced with delight, but the stranger was disturbed and gloomy. He looked at his noble host with compassion, and something like a tear swam in his dark eye. After the lapse of a few seconds, the music died gently in the distance, and all was hushed as before. The Baron soon after quitted the apartment, and was followed almost immediately by the stranger. He had not long been absent when an awful noise, as of a person in the agonies of death, was heard, and the Baron was discovered stretched dead along the corridors. His countenance was convulsed with pain, and the grip of a human hand was visible on his blackened throat. The alarm was instantly given. The castle searched in every direction, but the stranger was seen no more. The body of the Baron in the meantime was quietly committed to the earth, and the remembrance of the dreadful transaction recalled but as a thing that once was. After the departure of the stranger, who had indeed fascinated her very senses, the spirits of the gentle Clotilda evidently declined. She loved to walk early and late in the walks that he had once frequented, to recall his last words, to dwell on his sweet smile, and wander to the spot where she had once discoursed with him of love. She avoided all society, and never seemed to be happy but when left alone in the solitude of her chamber. It was then that she gave vent to her affection in tears, and the love that the pride of maiden modesty concealed in public burst forth in the hours of privacy. So beauteous, yet so resigned was the fair mourner, that she had seemed already an angel freed from the trammels of the world, and prepared to take her flight to heaven. As she was one summer evening rambling to the sequestered spot that had been selected as her favorite residence, a slow step advanced toward her. She turned around, and to her infinite surprise discovered the stranger. He stepped gaily to her side and commenced an animated conversation. "You left me," exclaimed the delighted girl, "and I thought all happiness was fled from me forever. But you return, and shall we not again be happy?" "Happy," replied the stranger, with a scornful burst of derision. "Can I ever be happy again? Can there? But excuse the agitation, my love, and impute it to the pleasure I experience at our meeting. Oh, I have many things to tell you, and many kind words to receive. Is it not so, sweet one? Come, tell me truly. Have you been happy in my absence? No, I see that in the sunken eye, in that pallid cheek, that the poor wanderer has at least gained some slight interest in the heart of his beloved. I have roamed to other climes, I have seen other nations, I have met with other females, beautiful and accomplished, but I have met but one angel, and she is here before me. Accept the simple offering of my affection, dearest," continued the stranger, plucking a heath rose from its stem. "It is beautiful as the wild flowers that deck thy hair, and sweet as the love I bear thee. It is beautiful, but its beauty is short-lived, as the love evinced by man. Let not this, then, be the type of thy attachment. Bring me the delicate evergreen, the sweet flower that blossoms throughout the year, and I will say, as I wreath it in my hair, the voices have bloomed and died, the roses have flourished and decayed, but the evergreen is still young, and so is the love of heart. You will not, cannot, desert me. I live but in you. You are my hopes, my thoughts, my existence itself. And if I lose you, I lose my all. But I was a solitary wildflower in the wilderness of nature until you transplanted me to a more genial soil. And can you now break the fond heart you first taught to glow with passion? "Speak not thus," returned the stranger. "It rends my very soul to hear you. Leave me, forget me, avoid me forever, or your eternal ruin must ensue. I am a thing abandoned of God and man, and did you but see the scared heart that scarcely beats within this moving mass of deformity, you would flee me, as you would an adder in your path. Here is my heart, love. Feel how cold it is. There is no pulse that betrays its emotion, for all is chilled and dead as the friends I once knew. You are unhappy, love, and your poor Clotilda shall stay to succour you. Think not I can abandon you in your misfortunes. No, I will wander with thee through the wide world, and be thy servant, thy slave, if thou wilt have it so. I will shield thee from the night winds that they blow not too roughly on thy unprotected head. I will defend thee from the tempest that howls around, and though the cold world may devote thy name to scorn, though friends may fall off, and associates wither in the grave, there shall be one fond heart who shall love thee better in thy misfortune, and cherish thee, bless thee still. She ceased, and her blue eyes swam in tears, as she turned it, glistening with affection, toward the stranger. He averted his head from her gaze, and a scornful sneer of the darkest, the deadliest malice passed over his fine countenance. In an instant the expression subsided. His fixed glassy eye resumed its unearthly chillness, and he turned once again to his companion. "It is the hour of sunset," he exclaimed, "the soft, the beauteous hour when the hearts of lovers are happy, and nature smiles in unison with their feelings. But to me it will smile no longer. Ere the morrow dawns I shall very far from the house of my beloved, from the scenes where my heart is enshrined as in a sepulchre. But must I leave thee, dearest flower of the wilderness, to be the sport of a whirlwind, the prey of the mountain blast?" "No, we will not part," replied the impassioned girl. "Where thou goest, will I go. Thy home shall be my home, and thy God shall be my God. Swear it," resumed the stranger, wildly grasping her by the hand. "Swear to the fearful oath I shall dictate." He then desired her to kneel, and holding his right hand in a menacing attitude towards heaven, and throwing back his dark raven locks, exclaimed in a strain of bitter imprecation, with the ghastly smile of an intricate friend, "May the curses of an offended God," he cried, "haunt thee, cling to thee forever in the tempest and in the calm, in the day and in the night, in the sickness and in sorrow, in life and in death, shouldst thou swerve from the promise that hast here made to be mine. May the dark spirits of the damned howl in thine ears, the accursed chorus of fiends. May the air wreck thy bosom with the quenchless flames of hell. May the soul be as the lazar house of corruption, where the ghost of departed pleasure sits enshrined, as in a grave, where the 100-headed woman never dies, where the fire is never extinguished. May a spirit of evil lord it over thy brow, and proclaim as thou passest by, "This is the abandoned of God and man." May fearful spectres haunt thee in the night season. May the dearest friends drop day by day into the grave, and curse thee with the dying breath. May all that is most horrible in human nature, more solemn than language can frame or lips can utter, may this, and more than this, be thy eternal portion, shouldest thou violate the oath that thou hast taken. He ceased. Hardly knowing what she did, the terrified girl acceded to the awful adjuration, and promised eternal fidelity to him, who henceforth to be her lord. "Spirits of the damned, I thank thee for thine assistance," shouted the stranger. "I have wooed my fair bride bravely. She is mine, mine forever. Ay, body and soul, both mine, mine in life and mine in death. What in tears, my sweet one, ere yet the honeymoon is past? Why, indeed, thou hast cause for weeping. But when next we meet, we shall meet to sign the nuptial bond." He then imprinted a cold salute on the cheek of his young bride, and softening down to the unutterable horrors of his countenance, requested her to meet him at 8 o'clock on the ensuing evening in the chapel adjoining the castle of Hernswolf. She turned around to him with a burning sigh, as if to implore protection from himself, but the stranger was gone. On entering the castle, she was observed to be impressed with deepest melancholy. Her relations vainly endeavored to ascertain the cause of her uneasiness, but the tremendous oath she had sworn completely paralyzed her faculties, and she was fearful of betraying herself by even the slightest intonation of her voice or the least variable expression of her countenance. When the evening was concluded, the family retired to rest, but Clotilda, who was unable to take response from the restlessness of her disposition, requested to remain alone in the library that adjoined her apartment. All was now deep midnight. Every domestic had long since retired to rest, and the only sound that could be distinguished was the sullen howl of the ban-dog as he bayed at the waning moon. Clotilda remained in the library in an attitude of deep meditation. The lamp that burnt on the table where she sat was dying away, and the lower end of the apartment was already more than half obscured. The clock from the northern angle of the castle tolled out the hour of 12, and the sound echoed dismally in the solemn stillness of the night. Sudden, the oaken door at the farther end of the room was gently lifted on its latch, and a bloodless figure, apparelled in the habiliments of the grave, advanced slowly up the apartment. No sound heralded its approach as it moved with noiseless steps to the table where the lady was stationed. She did not at first perceive it, till she felt a death-cold hand fast grasped in her own, and heard a solemn voice whisper in her ear, "Clotilda." She looked up. A dark figure was standing beside her. She endeavored to scream, but her voice was unequal to the exertion. Her eye was fixed, as if by magic, on the form which slowly removed the garb that concealed its countenance, and disclosed the livid eyes and skeleton shape of her father. It seemed to gaze upon her with pity and regret, and mournfully exclaimed, "Clotilda, the dresses and the servants are ready. The church bell has tolled, and the priest is at the altar. But where is the affianced bride? There is room for her in the grave, and tomorrow shall she be with me." "Tomorrow?" faltered out the distracted girl. "The spirits of hell shall have registered it, and tomorrow must the bond be cancelled." The figure ceased, slowly retired, and was soon lost in the obscurity of distance. The evening arrived, and already as the hall clock struck 8, Clotilda was on her road to the chapel. It was a dark, gloomy night. Thick masses of dung clouds sailed across the firmament, and the roar of the winter wind echoed awfully through the forest trees. She reached the appointed place. A figure was in waiting for her. It advanced, and discovered the features of the stranger. "Why, this is well, my bride," he exclaimed, with a sneer, "and well will I repay thy fondness. Follow me." They proceeded together in silence through the winding avenues of the chapel until they reached the adjoining cemetery. Here they paused for an instant, and the stranger, in a softened tone, said, "But 1 hour more, and the struggle will be over. And yet this heart of incarnate malice can feel, when it devotes so young, so pure a spirit to the grave. But it must be," he proceeded, as the memory of her past love rushed on her mind, "for the fiend whom I obey has so willed it, poor girl. I am leading thee indeed to our nuptials, but the priest will be death. Thy parents, the mouldering skeletons that rot in heaps around, and the witnesses to our union, the lazy worms that revel on the carious bones of the dead. Come, my young bride. The priest is impatient for his victim." As they proceeded, a dim blue light moved swiftly before them, and displayed at the extremity of the churchyard the portals of a vault. It was open, and they entered it in silence. The hollow wind came rushing through the gloomy abode of the dead, and on every side were piled mouldering remnants of coffins, which dropped piece by piece upon the damp mud. Every step they took was on a dead body, and the bleached bones rattled horribly beneath their feet. In the center of the vault rose a heap of unburied skeletons, whereon was seated a figure too awful even for the darkest imagination to conceive. As they approached it, the hollow vault rung with a hellish peal of laughter, and every mouldering corpse seemed endued with the unholy life. The stranger paused, and as he grasped his victim in his hand, one sigh burst from his heart, one tear glistened in his eye. It was but for an instant. The figure frowned awfully in his vacillation and waved his gaunt hand. The stranger advanced. He made certain mystic circles in the air, uttered unearthly words, and paused in excess of terror. On a sudden he raised his voice and wildly exclaimed, "Spouse of the spirit of darkness, a few moments are yet thine, that thou mayest know to whom thou hast consigned thyself. I am the undying spirit of the wretch who cursed his Saviour on the cross." He looked at me in the closing hour of its existence, and that look hath not yet passed away, for I am cursed above all on the earth. I am eternally condemned to hell, and I must cater for my master's taste till the world is parched as is a scroll, and the heavens and the earth have passed away. I am he of whom thou mayest have read, and of whose feats thou mayest have heard. 1,000,000 souls has my master condemned me to ensnare, and then my penance is accomplished, and I may know the repose of the grave. Thou art the 1,000th soul that I have damned. I saw thee in thine hour of purity, and I marked thee at once for my home. Thy father I did murder for his temerity, and permitted to warn thee of thy fate, and myself have I beguiled for thy simplicity. Ha! The spell works bravely, and thou shalt soon see, my sweet one, to whom thou hast linked thine undying fortunes. For as long as the seasons shall move on their course of nature, as long as the lightning shall flash and the thunders roll, thy penance shall be eternal. Look below and see what thou art destined. She looked at the vault split in 1,000 different directions. The earth yawned asunder, and the roar of mighty waters was heard. A living ocean of molten fire glowed in the abyss beneath her, and blending with the shrieks of the damned and the triumphant shouts of the fiends, rendered horror more horrible than imagination. 10 millions of souls were writhing in the fiery flames, and as the boiling billows dashed them against the blackened rocks of adamant, they cursed with the blasphemies of despair. And each curse echoed in thunder across the wave. The stranger rushed towards his victim. For an instant he held her over the burning vista, looked fondly in her face, and wept as he were a child. This was but the impulse of a moment. Again he grasped her in his arms, dashed her from him with fury, and as her past parting glance was cast in kindness on his face, shouted aloud, "Not mine is the crime, but the religion that thou professed. For is it not said that there is a fire of eternity prepared for the souls of the wicked? And hast not thou incurred its torments?" She, poor girl, heard not, heeded not the shouts of the blasphemer. Her delicate form bounded from rock to rock, over billow and over foam. As she fell, the ocean lashed itself as it were in triumph to receive her soul, and as she sunk down in the burning pit, 10,000 voices reverberated from the bottomless abyss. Spirit of evil, here indeed is an eternity of torments prepared for thee, for here the worm never dies, and the fire is never quenched. William Harrison Ainsworth, 1805 to 1882. And that's it for Ghost Stories. Follow us at postaboutghosts.com. You can tweet with us on X at postabtghosts. Follow us on Facebook at Post About Ghosts. And we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.